Perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Thursday and to this very much after lunch, very nice time for most of you who is in Europe. But I hope that you are going well with the week 5, which is rather a tough nut to crack, to be honest, regarding the financial modeling and building the financial plan for your teams, for your startups. I see most of you again with the names of your teams, but please also add the ones who just have their own names, so that we will be better identifying you. And also, Hannes here will identify not just you as a person, but you as a founder of a certain project. All right. Thank you so much. I will let people in who are a little bit late, will come late, but nevertheless, as a general rule, please, if you are sitting somewhere stationary, turn your camera on, microphone off. We will really appreciate seeing your faces and seeing especially the reactions on probably some of the topics arisen. Exciting and even more exciting. And with this being said, I'm presenting to you our speaker today, Hannes, who is also, we're also honored to have Hannes as mentor for some of the teams. By the way, I don't see the teams coming here. So Hannes, they're taking you for granted. I need to show them certain, certain pattern of also coming to their own mentors session. But anyways, Hannes will be presenting today his own recommendations. We'll also have interaction element. And if you have any questions, you can always raise your hand, and just whenever we'll finish, the section or some content part, we will go to your question or comment or a story, because I think that also sharing your just experience with working with some of the financial plans also very valuable. All right, I'm talking too much. So let's have a very exciting conversation about financial modeling. So Hannes, passing the floor to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so I try to do this in interactive ways. So whenever you have questions, just chime in, raise your hand, or put it in the chat, so that we can either answer directly or afterwards. So today, I hope I will not bore you out. It's a little bit number crunching and, to understand why all this matters. And let me share my screen. So, okay, I hope you can see my screen. And today we will talk about financial modeling. So, and for that, first of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm working in B2B and B2C product sales and marketing for more than 20 years in a couple of companies. You see them here on the screen, mostly in either software companies providing software for SaaS or platforms, or actually in platform companies, so delivering services. So nevertheless, financial modeling is not only about software as a service, it's also about, if you sell products, if you sell goods, it matters. So 3 topics today. So purpose and some basics. I want to speak a little bit about some of the numbers you need to take into account. A little bit in the second phase or second agenda item, I will give you a little bit background about the business case elements. So a little bit theory about, and then we will go into a real example where I will guide you through an Excel table, because Excel is your friend here. And then we can make it as interactive as you want. So before we start, I would like to understand whom we have in the room. So 2 questions. One is what industry you are. Please put it in the chat, or just say it loud out, whatever you want. so that I understand a little bit where I may go a little bit deeper. So B2B SaaS, we have deep tech, SaaS. Okay, I see. Deep tech, SaaS. Good, perfect. Then all this content matters for you. The second question I have is your background. Are you a meta expert, tech operations? So are you the doer? Are you in sales marketing or with background in sales marketing, finance? Just to give me a little bit an idea of your expertise. Again, maybe in the chat. Product management, very good. We will be friends. Tech marketing, everything. I like that. As a founder, for sure, you do everything. That's clear. Okay, good. So because I don't know how much you know, so I will give a little bit of background of what we are talking about, some basics and the purpose. So a business case. Business case is not a financial statement. So business case is something you plan the future with, and a financial statement is the past, basically. So, and financial statements are accounting standards. So I'm not an accountant, so I'm not super familiar with all the standards, but I can read this. I understand it. More important is the planning of the future. And here a little bit an overview of the differences and why you need both actually. So a business case helps you to make a decision. It does not help you to evaluate performance. It helps you to budget, to plan for your costs, for your expected outcome, and it helps you to make a informed decision about investments you plan to do. It's a forward-looking thing compared to a financial statement, which is actually a looking back thing, and that's the main difference. Both you need and both will interact, and let me show you how they will interact. So what you will hear from investors, from your finance guys, etc., all this words like business case, budget, forecast, actuals, um, they play into each other. So you do a business case, usually a multi-year thing where you plan out the future. Then you have your budget. A budget is usually either a quarterly thing or an annual budget plan. And then you are measuring against either the actuals or your forecast you have. So depending a little bit how your plan is structured, and the actuals are the financial statement. So, and then with your budget and the forecast, you are basically try to understand how you perform, you know. So, and what are the elements? Here, the business case, again, a multi-year future look is an investment decision to see if you even start something. The budget is a short-term future thing, quarterly, annual, more the actual execution. And then the forecast is something you will do to understand where I'm heading in my current quarter, in the next 2 quarters, to either correct course or to adapt to market conditions. And then the financial statement is in the end what the outcome is, and then that will not help you to do any decision. Questions so far? Okay, good. So what is the purpose of financial modeling, and what does it need to answer? That's so, and this answers and then questions you answer are for multiple peoples, either your investors, your own planning in terms of how you perform. And the very first one is you need to answer where the money is coming from. So that's a very crucial question you need to answer. And the next most important is, when does it happen over time? So that's one thing. Also, for what you spend your money and when does it happen? Basically, your revenue and your costs. So how long will it take to get the money back from your investment you make is a question you want to answer, because you want to understand your horizon of work, your horizon of investment, to see, okay, will it take 7 years? Will it take 3 years to get money back? And after that point, you are basically profitable, right? So, and then a question you need to ask yourself and to answer to your investors is, are there better returns possible? Are there other venues you should go? When you plan your business, there are always alternatives. Either a different product setup or a different route you can go in your product strategy. So you need to compare against alternatives. And I will show you how you do this with numbers and with a proper process behind. I'm stopping for a second. Questions? Okay, good. So in the SaaS business, you think about recurring revenue, and when you sell goods or produce something, or you have when you are in deep tech, for example, you have technologies you sell. So there is a difference between recurring revenue and transactional revenue. And it's a very easy one, so nothing complicated. So I'm just repeating. If you heard this 100,000 times already, just ignore. I just want to bring up everybody into the same level. Very easy. Recurring revenue is a subscription where you deliver a product or service in a periodically manner, so even monthly, every day, whatever, and you get a periodical payment for that. So basically, it's repeating, and you have a relationship, a service relationship with your customer. This can be products, physical goods that you're sending out every week. I don't know, a food package, for example. But it can be also any service you provide. So usually in SaaS, that's your product you sell. So, and compared to that, there's a transactional thing where you do a delivery or service delivery, either a project or a physical good to your customer, and you get your money for. Very traditional. So it is super important to understand the difference here, because where the money is coming from in this whole thing. If you are in recurring revenue models, your money is coming from your existing customer base. Let me explain this graphic here. Every month you get one customer, or you sell one of your subscriptions. So you are adding over time customers. So when you are in the first months, as an example, you had one customer, you get money from this customer. Second month, you get another customer, your customer number 2, so 1 plus 1. You get now money from your customer you got a prior month and the current one. So it's already twice as much money, and so on and so forth, right? So my point is, your actual revenue is coming from the people utilizing your service. You are less dependent on your customers you are adding. So that is the recurring revenue effect. And that is why this whole business model is so super attractive, because you have stable income, and you need to care basically only about your customer base and growing this base, your active base. You see here this little red guy. So this is what is called churn. So when somebody is leaving your service, then you lose money, and then that your customer base is not growing if you lose the same amount of subscription then you add. So that is the basic dynamic of recurring revenue, and to understand this very basic is super crucial in the whole business, because then you are focusing on the right thing to take care about your customer base. Because if people are losing, churning your service, then you actually lose money. Very simple math here. Questions to that? I think you are very familiar with this from a SaaS perspective, but I want to repeat this for everybody. Okay, so now I want to become a little bit interactive. So there is a very famous question asked in interviews when McKinsey is doing interviews. So a local pizza shop is experiencing a decline in revenue. The owner asks you for help. What would you do? Give me some answers, please. No judgment. You can't do anything
Just
wrong.
unmute. Yes, unmute yourself and give your options. I see someone already smiling.
Likely because you know the answer. Looking P&L. Okay, that's one thing.
I will go to the shop to see how is a day of selling pizza.
Okay.
I think probably we'll look at P&L. Yes, I mean we'll look at the numbers. Definitely be at the shop, but look at the numbers of last 3-4 months, because experiencing a declining in revenue. We don't know from which month the revenue decline has started, right? So we still don't know that. So that's something that we need to get an answer to. It's a recent event. It's a event happening from last 5-6 months, right? Then we try to understand where the sales were coming from earlier. Since the pizza shop, it could be a variety of pizza which was driving a sales earlier, which is not now, right? We don't. I mean, again, it could be external factors that might have affected. So again, study the P&L, understand what units were driving the sales, and then research on them, then figure it out. Then you can probably form an opinion and a plan of what should be done next. Is it less marketing spends? That could be multiple factors here.
Okay, you said two very important things. One is number of units and the sales. So thank you for the answers in the chat. Let's answer this. There's only one answer to that. The revenue is very simple. The price per unit multiplied by the quantity. That is your revenue, nothing else. So, and then for sure, from an analysis perspective, you then look into, okay, what is affecting the price and what is affecting the quantity. And all you said is correct. So you need to look into the competition, into the market, look around what others sell their pizza for. Is the price lower or higher? All this impacts these two components. So crucial elements here is that you understanding your price component and that you understanding your quantity component. So how you do this? You try to understand what is the driver for each of the components. So there is what is called the driver tree. So here's one for PaaS and SaaS business. Is basically you try to dissect your revenue into this two component. So how many customers / contracts I have in my base, active contracts, and what they are paying me for each of the contracts. So, and then into these numbers, there are many things you can look into. Here are some crucial elements you are usually looking into. Is how much is my contract base or my subscription base influenced by net new orders or orders I get in? How much people are leaving me? What is my average customer base after doing the math here? And within your contract base, you can have upgrades, downgrades, and side grades from one product to another. So how many people are upgrading from one plan to the next plan, as an example. And when it comes to churn, you want to understand very early what's happening. So churn is an event. Churn is when the contract is cancelled. So, and then it's not in effect anymore. So what you can look at is what is called future dated churn, when somebody tells you they want to leave. So that is usually happening earlier because your contracts are usually either monthly or every you have an annual contract, and they tell you on some point, hey, I want to leave. This is very crucial information because it gives you information ahead of time. So also you want to look into the average usage of your product. So here's device per or gigabyte per unit, but it depends on your product. If you you have an attack or a SaaS solution, you want to look into, okay, how often my product is used, because that gives you an information and very early indicator. If somebody is not using your product, then you can expect the churn on some point, because why they should pay for something they don't use. Somebody will realize it on some point. So that is all about the contract base. Then the price. What is influencing the price? The price is influenced by many things. Basically, your averages are influenced by multiple factors, either by your product. So your product price obviously is something influencing the average revenue you get from your product. But also, do you sell add-ons to your product? And there could be a couple of mix effects. So mix effects could be product mix. So if you have 2 or 3 different products, it can matter how much you sell from one or another product, because the prices are different. Also your plan mix. So if you have starter, advanced, or silver, gold, platinum plan, how this mix is made up affects your price, obviously, because as more mix towards the platinum plan you have, as higher is your ARPU. And then if you sell on global level, it also matters what your geo mix is. So geographical mix or your sales channel mix, because if you sell in the US and in India, for example, India, you likely will have lower prices because of the market needed this. So if you sell more in India, your average revenue drops. But also, same point, you may have less cost in those areas. Questions to this? Doesn't make sense to you? Logic. Okay, good. So, okay. Now we learned a little bit about some of the elements, and I will give you some readings for later weeks. So no need to absorb everything. Now let's talk about how you build actually a case and what are the 10 steps you should take here. So let's talk about each of the elements, and then we will go into an example. Okay. First and foremost, start rough. Go into details in your iterations. So if you don't know something, doesn't matter, make an assumption. If the assumption and you learn over time more, you can adapt your assumptions. So for example, if you know your market size or your number of customers you can attract, and then you had a workshop about how to conclude the market and competitor research. So take all this into account and start from what you know. If you don't know, no worries. You can make assumptions. They should be educated. You can research. ChatGPT is your friend. Many of the assumptions you will get there, and other AI tools. But that's my very advice, because that will help you not to get overloaded. Second, understand your market and define your product, set price point, and identify costs. So, but first and foremost, understand your market. So try to find out numbers, try to find out where you would go. So I'm working with, for example, with one of the medical device startups. And those guys, they know very, very well their market, because there is a very defined set of hospitals in the world, and there are lists for that. The guys, they know where to go to find the different hospitals and whom to talk to. So this market is super well defined, and you know what you can sell them. So very important, define your product offer. What you are actually selling. What is your customer paying for? And then from your expertise, from your market research, set a price point. So what you want to get from them, you know? So the costs comes usually with either your costs attached to deliver the service. So that's called the cost of sold goods, COGS. And this is usually something very variable attached to your sales. So if you sell something, then you have costs. And then you have more general costs you cannot really attribute to your different products. Okay, next element is the revenue. So try to understand your revenue as much as possible. Again, start rough, go into details in iterations. So think about your market definition. So if you have 100,000 potential customers in the world, try to understand how many in each month I can get to buy my stuff, you know? How many add-ons I can add to that if I have add-ons, or if I plan to have add-ons later, when this will happen, you know? Assume customer churn. In SaaS and other areas, you will see churn. So don't assume people will be there forever. In B2B SaaS, just as an example, you can assume a lifetime of roughly 36 months. So it means 3 years, a usual contract will last around 3 years. That's a very average number. So you can assume after 3 months, 3 years, somebody will leave you. So plan this into your business case. So, and then you calculate some of the KPIs out of it. So how much is my ARPU? So how many revenue I get per unit I sell. And then also you will get all the numbers we need for later stages. Okay, so gross margin, very important. You need to understand if you are profitable with your core thing you are selling. So if you have a product, as an example, a piece of good you sell, and your costs are higher than what you get for your product, then your gross margin is negative. Your gross margin to be negative is super bad, because you will never make any dollar profit if your core service is actually not profitable. You know, this has a lot to do with the price point and the costs you have for the product. Same for as a service business. You need to understand your gross margin here. Usually, because of software as a service is very repeatable, so you don't add additional costs by selling one more seat. You know, that is usually a very high gross margin. Because from all this margin, all this profit, you pay everything else. You know, that's why it's so important. Also, what is your customer acquisition cost? So how much you need to spend to get a customer? So how many sales and marketing resources, either people or your marketing costs you will have, like paid search, or if you need to go to events to be present in the market, these are all your costs. You take them into account and then divide by the number of sales you have, or the orders you get. So that is your customer acquisition cost. Next element is, aside from marketing and sales and your cost of goods sold, you have other costs. You need to pay your finance guy. You need to pay for advice, whatever you need to pay for. You need to pay for travel. All these costs take into account. They will happen. So make assumptions. Usually you would plan very thin for sure, because you want to be as efficient as possible, but you will have that. So plan that. Calculate your EBITDA. EBITDA is very simple, is all your costs you have your revenue minus your cost you have, that's your EBITDA. And that will give you an information of how well your business is doing over time. Usually in the first 1 to 2 years, usually you will see a negative EBITDA because you are still in the investment phase, because you need to start your business, you need to get your product on the market, etc., etc. So usually that is what you try to get investment for, for this period of time. So, and then something I recommend to do is calculate your cash contribution. The cash contribution is measurement. It's near the cash flow. If you heard this this name, it is as simple as it is your EBITDA minus your capex. Capex are investments you do. So, and this is usually upfront costs you have. If you need to buy a large device, for example, to produce your stuff, then this is capex. So, and because you're doing it in upfront, this money is not available anymore. So, and to get to this number of cash contribution, you can identify when in your timeline you need money, and how deep will it go. That will give you an information about how much money you actually need to fund. So I will show you in a second how this will look like, and what does it help you. So, and then there is something called NPV, your net present value of the cash contribution. The net present value is nothing else than calculating back all the money you receive over time to the present day. So, and I will give you details about that in a second. So, and then lastly, you should evaluate your NPV against other opportunities or market launches or other venues. And that is what investors will do as well. They will compare one business case from one startup to another. So do the same for yourself. And I highly recommend to just being very truthful to yourself, understand where it goes. You can make very aggressive assumptions, that's fine, but also you need to take into account, okay, is my idea, my business case viable? Will this make money in the end? Okay, so how will this look like usually? So all this calculation, you will see in a second how this works, but this will lead to a couple of results you will get out of it. You will get, first and foremost, you will get your revenues, you will understand when in time my business case is paying off, and then you will understand if I invest money right now, is it valuable to invest or not? And here in this graphic, you see multiple elements. Let me explain them. So the red line here, this line, that's actually the cumulated EBITDA. So everything you spend and you get from your revenue, add it up, and this minimal point here in the business case, in this example, it's roughly 7.5 million. This is the maximum amount of money you need to fund your whole case. Everything afterwards is getting better, so you are actually getting more money than you spend, but that is your basically how much money you need in total to fund your whole business case. The blue line is the EBITDA itself, month by month. So every month you have an EBITDA, so your revenue minus your costs, and that will give you an idea when your business case is turning positive. So this is this number 2 cross here. That is your break-even point. When this is the first month when your whole business case is positive, when you the first time get more money than you spent. So, and then the green line here, that's your revenue. as you can't see here, but there is a time before you launch. You need to fund this time because you are not on market yet. So you will not have any revenue, but you have cost. So take this into account. So I stop now for a second for questions before I move on. Are there any questions?
Or also maybe something that you want to go a little bit deeper into, because there are now lots of terms and maybe you're afraid that something is not applicable for you. Also, feel free to just say so or text. I understand. There are no stupid questions for sure.
Exactly. Okay.
There is a question from Pratik.
Yeah. Hi, Hannes. We are a biotech plus AI company, and the product development for us is mostly one time. But then we have to validate that product again in different geographies because of regulatory. So, in payoff time, how would we calculate the payoff time? Because usually, like payoff time would be for the asset that you do capital investment once, and then you continue with the revenue generation from that asset. In our case, the asset revenue generation would be very long term.
Yeah. And that's totally understandable. And what it means for you, first and foremost, this little dip here would be earlier for you because simply you need to invest more upfront. That's one thing. And the second is because of your geographical regulations. So, for example, in the US, you need the FAA confirmation, and in Europe something else, and so on and so forth. What I would recommend is I would split up your case into different regions where you basically start your revenue generation later for each of your geographies. So when you plan to go into one geo versus another, take this into account, because then you basically spread out the revenue over time, and then you launch market by market. That is what you would do here. And again, this dip would be simply earlier because you have the upfront costs, and then later on your revenue will shoot out, or your EBITDA will shoot out, because on some point you will be present in all markets, you make revenue, but you don't have the initial high costs anymore. So it's simply basically what changes is only the cross points here. In your case earlier, the payoff time may be later because of the revenue over time will take time because you launch in different geos. So that's the only effect here. So the payback time, don't be afraid to have long payback times. So in some industries, it's very common to have 7 to 10 years, sometimes longer, because it simply takes time for adoption of the market or very unique solution, very specifically in very highly regulated environments. It takes really time. And don't be afraid about doing this case, because you don't know what investor you will have. There are short-term investors, they look into 3 to 5 years. Maybe that's not the investor for you. Other investors are long-term oriented, and they know what they do. There are, for example, infrastructure funds or investors. They plan for 15 to 20 years sometimes. Don't be afraid about it. Okay, good. So I try not to bore out you. I trust me. If you sleep away, let me know. We can make it more fun. Okay, the NPV. Let me explain a little bit this number, and I want to make this on an example. It's pretty easy. If your your product generates 10,000 US dollars in net contribution. So after all the costs, your EBITDA is 10K per year, and you have 3 years you look into, that makes 30,000 US dollars. And then you apply what is called a weighted average cash cost. So how much it costs you to get the money? Usually either it's a mortgage or your investors expect some percentage. This is around 8 to 15%, depends a little bit what the investors expect, or what the money costs you. So that's your cost on the money. So set this, you calculate basically the NPV. I will not explain how it works here. You can read in the links, but what it tells you is I need 24,000 US dollars investments right now to make 30,000 over the course of the next 3 years. That is what the number tells you. So, and if this number is higher or lower, that is what you compare different things or different business cases. And there are a couple of things you need to take into account. So first of all, your business case is aimed to get a positive NPV. So the money you invest should not be burned. So you want something back. So, and what you usually strive for is for a strong positive NPV. This means the investor or yourself can expect more than the 10% out of it. So that's one thing. The negative NPV is a red flag. It signals you that your business case over the time you look at is not viable. So you need to adapt and change, either in your assumptions or in your pricing or something else. You will see this in the plans. If it is near zero, or so plus minus zero roughly, it does indicate that your business case covered the costs, but is maybe not as exciting as it should be. It can be okay in certain cases. For example, if your exit strategy is to create a technology which is bought by a larger competition, then you basically just need to survive long enough so that somebody is buying you. That could be one strategic viability here if that is zero. But what you really want is a positive NPV for sure, because you want this whole thing to deliver more value than you burn, if that makes sense. Okay, good. Then you will hear often the term scenario. What is a scenario? I call this a sensitivity analysis, or you can call it scenario, it doesn't matter. Is basically you are conducting an analysis to test certain scenarios. What happens if your sales drops? What happens if you don't get the price? What is if your costs are higher or lower? And what you want to see is if your NPV reacts on that and how much. So let's say you have 10% less sales and your NPV would drop from positive to negative. It means your business case is highly dependent on the sales. Sometimes it will react only very small because your sales or your gross orders are not super important for your business case because you are in a SaaS model and you are living off your active base. So it doesn't matter if you add less sales over time. So what you usually do is you have 3 cases, and I recommend to do them because this will give you real good information about how sensitive your whole approach is, how viable your assumptions are. So base case, that is the plan you work for, nothing else. You are not planning for the worst case, you are not planning for the best case, you are planning for your base case. That is what you want to achieve. Your worst case is typical. You adjust a couple of parameters to see how it reacts. Less orders. it takes longer to go to market, or you have additional costs, or you have 10% less price or more discounts you need to give because you have more promotions running. And then you plan for best case, and typical parameters are either you have less costs or you sell more for a higher price. So these are the typical parameters you play with to then compare the cases. So, and to compare the cases, let's say you lower your orders by 10%, you see that your NPV reacts with -5%. It's pretty good because it tells you that your case is very viable and your assumptions are good. So if it reacts like hell for any change, have a look into your assumptions and the market environment. Are you able to get the price you want, etc., etc.? Okay, good. Let's move on. Here's some recommendations for further readings. So that is something I wrote. This is the business case essentials. That's a very practical guide. I recommend this, and this is a little bit more. So it's Harvard Business Review. It's a little bit more theoretical, but also with very good advice. So have a read here. So now let's go into a real example how this looks like and what you need to do for. First and foremost, you need to have your offer ready to start your business case, because otherwise you are not able to define your sales. I'm working out of what is called the 4P marketing mix. It is product, pricing, placement, and promotion. And it gives you a little bit of framework of how to think about. First, define your product. This example is an example. This product never, or this project got never live. I did this when I was at Acronis, so I can share this and all the numbers because they are not real anymore. But the idea was that we created a data protection offer, backup, and cloud storage, etc. And with a couple of USPs we have. So why we were at the time unique on the market. So define this. The second you need to define is your pricing. So what offers you have. In this case, there were 4 offers, 4 different plans, and there were additional services planned, so add-ons to each of the plans. So you use different effects here. There is a decoy effect in your portfolio. So a decoy effect, I just want to explain, is the effect of what is called the S-Class. So I worked for Mercedes, so that's my example here. So the S-Class in the Mercedes portfolio does exist only for one purpose, and that's real. It does exist for selling more E-classes, the class below the S-Class. So the S-Class shows you what is possible, what's the high end, what's latest technology, and it helps selling the E-Class. That is the purpose of the S-Class. And that was always the strategy of Mercedes. The E-Class was the volume car they sold. The S-Class was just the highlight in the window. You want to showcase this. And the same effects you're utilizing in a portfolio of 3 or 4 products, silver, gold, platinum. The platinum is usually not sold very well because it's usually expensive, everything is in. It's totally overshooting what you need. And the only effect is that you want to sell more of the lower packages. So, and then psychological pricing sometimes makes sense, sometimes not, depends a little bit on the market you are in. So the placement is how you sell this and what channels you are using. Are you selling direct on a website and are you selling online or through salespeople walking into hospitals as an example? That would be a direct channel, offline or online. Or you sell indirect via partners. So do you work with partners and they sell you? That is super important to understand because with a channel you have costs attached. With direct, you have also costs attached, and usually it should be that your channel costs are lower than your direct costs. It is more expensive to do direct marketing and direct sales rather than working with a partner. For one simple reason: if you work with a partner, they add resources as well. Somebody works with you, it's one more resources you utilize. Sometimes they invest money as well to market your solution. So you are activating more money than you have yourself. So in essence, it needs to be cheaper to go through channel versus direct. So have this in mind and plan this out. So, and then promotions, that's all about how you make sure you are pushing the sale. So discounting, promotions, your messaging, you know, what you sell, what you want to achieve. So have this 4 elements ready, because then you can start utilizing your business case, and you can start working it out. I just see in the chat your Coca-Cola example is pretty right. So they do the same in their portfolio with pricing as well. That's very true. Okay, good. So in this example, I'm working with 4 plans here. So there's a starter, an individual, family, and work plan, and they have different pricing attached. So this was worked out. People thought about, and we came up with these plans, and those plans went into the case. So, and now I will jump to an Excel table.
Yeah, we have one story from Salim, like as a personal experience, I guess.
Do you want to
Salim,
talk about? Please do, Salim, if you want.
yeah, you can just comment.
This is our, actually we talked with a mentor from top telecom company in Turkey, and we talk about our pricing strategy, and I said we will launch with speed related solution with affordable price, and he didn't like it. And he said, if you don't have something premium, they will think it is low quality. So we decided to postpone our go-to-market to be able to sell the security bundled version. But we hope to go to market this month. We still didn't test it, but as I saw your presentation, so I want to just write a comment.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's a very valuable input. So we could do another workshop on pricing, Irina, by the way. That we could do, but very true. The cheaper price is not always the better, because you want to be perceived as quality in some cases versus the cheap option, you know. It highly depends on your market, on your competition, and how you position yourself in the market. And there's a very simple formula for how you get to the price. It's super complicated to get to the price, but it's super simple from a theoretical perspective. It's basically your price is the value you deliver to your end customer minus the friction costs they have to change to this solution. So it means if somebody has a high value out of your solution, and they have little cost or no friction to change to this solution, then you can have a really good price because you deliver a lot. And then you make, let's say, they have a benefit of $100,000 by applying a new method of how they calculate things, you know, with your solution. And you have a patent on this, so they can't get this somewhere else. So they are to get to this value of perceived value of 100K, they have to go to you. So even if they have $50,000 cost in changing to your solution because they need to change everything internally, you can cut off 10% of this $50,000 gain they receive minus the costs, and that gives you a price of 5,000 for this solution. What the value is, that's a big question. That's for sure always the big question: how much value you deliver to your end customers. And that is why I always recommend really try to understand your market, try to understand to whom you deliver value and how much, because sometimes you are surprised that how much value they get out of a very simple solution. That is why Excel is so famous, because Excel delivers great value for a very small price. Okay, good. Let's move on. Business case. Back to the business case. So that is a base case calculated for this example. And I will change now to the Excel table. So here we go. So that is how we calculated this. And I will go into the base case to show you how we did this. So very boring numbers. It's an Excel table, so don't expect nice pictures, but I try to guide you through the elements so that you understand. So first and foremost, this is a 5-year plan, and the annual numbers here are a summary of a monthly plan. So what we did is we planned out month by month what will happen, what we expect to happen. So where we started, first of all, there is a time before you launch. So that is the investments, people, you will have costs, as simple as it is. So plan them in, and then you have a launch date when you go live. Or if you are live already, then you start maybe in month 8, because that is where you are now. So anyways, month by month, and month by month will help you also to understand the dependencies you have and the launch dates, etc. So first element we take into account, top down, basically from top to down, there's an inner logic. The first is our addressable market. So it doesn't matter what it is exactly. This is the number of SMB companies in the world minus the micro companies. So mid-sized or small to enterprise, that's a number of those companies in the world. So that was our addressable market. So every B2B company, basically, except the very small ones. So we broke this down by country because our approach was country by country launch. That was, in this case, the plan. So, and what we did is we simply took the numbers out of statistics, and we made a couple of assumptions of how this market grow. So in this case, our assumption was no grow, we just take the number over time. So, and then each month we applied how many of the of this potential we can get in orders. So how many people will apply for a subscription we offer? So, and then we made a couple of assumptions. So for one market, the plan was to start in Germany. The plan was to serve 1.5% of the entire market, so 1.8 million, 1.5%, that was the goal. And our assumption was that our sales we have grow 5% year over year. So that is baked into the numbers. And as you can see, our plan was to start in Germany. So first orders came in month 1. And then a year later, we plan to start in the US. So that is how we planned the launches and how we baked this into the plans. Second element, so number of orders. And then what we did is we made assumption of how many of the different tariffs or plans we had are sold. So total number 235. 60% of this number is the smallest subscription. That's a very good assumption because usually 80-20 is your split. 80% is on your smallest tariff or plan, and then the rest is in the larger ones. So that is how we split basically our sales numbers. You can do it either way, it doesn't matter. In our case, it made sense because we made a country assumption and then we broke it down, okay, what we expect from the sales. So, and then also we added how many add-ons we will sell. Add-ons were basically to each of our plan elements. Let me go back. So you buy an individual plan, $14.99, and you could buy an additional add-on for $5, for example. And for those add-ons, we made also assumptions when we will start. So our start point for this add-on was in 5 months later. Then the next was planned for 3 months later, and so on and so forth. So that is how we did this. And what we did, we made an assumption of how much of the sales we have for our subscriptions will have this add-on attached. So our game was direct online sales with a small payments per month. So you saw $5 to $40. In this case, you can apply roughly a 2% take rate for sales. So 2% of 2100 is 54 in this case, and then that was our assumption here. So, and then we did the same for gross orders, and then we made assumptions of how many people will leave us over time. And very plain, 2% of our base in a year, they just disappear. So 2% divided by 12 is the number you see here. So 6 out of 230 people will just churn. So that was our assumption. And then what you need to take into account is then what your contract changes are. So contract changes, and I remind you about this slide. Give me 1 second. About your driver tree. So this is your upgrades and downgrades. So how many people will actually upgrade from one plan to another? This highly depends on your consumption. So if in our case, one device was served and the individual has 5 devices now or 3 devices, they need to upgrade to the next tier to be served. So, and this is what we took here into account. How many people changed the solution from this tariff to this tariff. So the total is always 0 because it's a change, but you subtract the tariff from to the tariff where it goes. So let's say 11 people from smaller plans went into the larger plan. That is the logic here. With this number, then you can calculate your customer base. And your customer base is your active subscription base. That is where you then apply your pricing, because you have changes here. People are coming, people are going, people are changing things. And the end result in each month is where you then apply the pricing. So that is where the pricing is applied. And that is basically your ARPU. Your ARPU is simply your price in this case, and then it is multiplied, and this gives you the revenue you will see. And that's a fairly accurate number if you hit all these other numbers. You know, that is what you are working towards then. Okay, I will stop for a second because that's a lot of information. Questions so far?
Or also comparison. Your so far your financial model, does it look like that or not, and why? Because this is an approach that Hannes is suggesting, but maybe you have some other approach towards it. Okay, not at all. Well, okay, there is a question from Bono. Bono, you want me to read the question, or you want to comment on it?
Yes, I'm wondering, like, is it worth to make long-term predictions and forecasting? Because the world changes even like day to day, and so we're not we don't know what to expect nowadays.
So my answer to that is yes. Yes, you want to have a plan. So how you adapt to this plan, that is very true. You should review your plan. You should adapt to what's happening in the world, but you can't, if you don't know if your product is viable on the market, you need to make assumptions. So, and you can go big, saying, okay, I want to serve the whole world, 8 billion people. How much people I can attract? So go bold here and adapt what is really possible. But yes, you should plan out how it will look like over time, because you need to make decisions, and you need to make decisions in terms of, okay, do I hire this guy now or not? Do I invest into the marketing or not? Do I do this whole project at all, or should my time go into something else? You need to decide about. So, but to your point, yes, changes will happen, and these numbers will not be the numbers you will see, but because, and that is why I recommend to do this in this way, month by month, with assumptions. As more assumptions and as more knowledge you have about what you're doing, as more accurate it will be. I have one experience I can share with you. I built at Strato in 2012. I built a new product. It was an entire new category. Nobody knew if this is viable or not. But we made so much effort into planning it out in the business case in the first place, that after 5 years, the business plan we made 5 years before and what we saw in the numbers were pretty accurate. I think we had only a 10% deviation, which is totally fine. And for sure, year 5 compared to year 1 will be from how much you believe in it. In year 1, pretty certain. In year 5, maybe, I don't know. But it gives you an idea in the sense of, is it actually possible? What if, look, if you see that you are not successful in Germany and you are not successful in USA after 2 years, okay, fine, then you don't go to Poland and other countries, because it doesn't work. So then you would revamp your whole business case and try to fix Germany and US first. You try to be successful before you go to the next. That is why, but you need to have a plan, right? I want to plan every year. I want to go to a new country. That's my plan. So, and if you don't do it, it's a decision you do along the way. That's your annual planning. So you can delay. If you delay, it will impact your plan for sure, because you have maybe costs already spent. To your question, yes, you should have a plan, and yes, it should be adapted whenever you gain more information, and you learn every day something new. And if you understand that your take rate is higher, your adaptation in the market is different from market to market, fine, put it into, make a new plan, and you will see, okay, how much impact it will have. Coming back to the sensitivity analysis or your scenarios, that is actually what you plan for all the uncertainty. You don't know if you get the price, you don't know if you get the sales, but you still can plan to see how it goes. I hope that helps you a little bit.
Yeah, but I got one more question. You said, for example, in the market for Germany or the USA, we have certain plans, and for example, we failed. But what if we proposed our plan to potential investors or the partners, and after 1 year, they want to make the, let's say, due diligence and see what is happening, but they see that we did not achieve certain results and our goals. How to be in this case? How make them believe, let's say, in us?
Okay, so
Because it's
that
all
is
about
why.
reputation.
Yeah. So that is why you do this on a monthly base, because then you can basically go back to the plan and say, okay, my plan was to start in January with in Germany. I started in March, so there's a delay. That is why it's happening. So can I do something about? Can I move it forward? Can I change? That is then the discussion you have. If you see that your entire numbers are not right, then this would be seen in your worst case scenario already. You would see this in the case if this number is 10% less, and your NPV turns negative, then obviously there is something either wrong with your assumption, or something is not viable in your business model, and then you need to rethink, okay, is the service I deliver, is it the right price? Do I understand my target group good enough? For example, you can say, okay, if I'm more targeted and I'm targeting only the 10,000 companies in Germany who really want my product, you are able to do less numbers, but for a higher price. So you can compensate for that. So I think that is the whole topic here, why you do this long-term plan, to understand those dynamics. Because then you can go to your investors, hey, that is my plan, and here are the reasons why it didn't happen. I had a delay here. I have this don't have this take rate. I don't have this add-on, or the add-on is not fulfilling the promise, etc., etc. But it helps you to identify where it happens, where the problem stays in the numbers. For sure, it's not isolated from your product. It's not isolated from the market and the environment. It is a framework to have in the bag so that you can stick to your plan. It helps you also to stick to your plan, by the way. So because when you plan to be in the US after 1 year, you have to work towards this, right? And if you decide not to go, then something changes. So again, that is why you do this long term, because you want to understand what's happening and what your plan is. And then, by the way, as more you plan out, as deeper you go, as more clear is what you need to do. Because then you understand, hey, I really need to focus now to get this live, because my whole business case depends on this, as an example. Or I really need to take care that I'm have a go live in the US in January next year. So I have to start working on here. That is when you plan the cost, by the way, because you want to hire people before that. Otherwise, you can't start at this state. So that is a guidance for you, and that is why I highly recommend to do this on a monthly base, because then you really have a timing for that. And yes, uncertainty will grow over time. As longer you plan, as more uncertainty you have. That's for sure. Okay, good. Let me go through the rest of this. It's not much anymore. So you have in the end your revenue. You gain by product, by add-on. So you see where revenue is coming from, and what needs to happen for that. And then you can calculate a couple of KPIs out of it, but that's a base you need. So, and then in our case, our main driver for costs was the storage utilization, number of gigabytes. In your case, maybe it is, I don't know, if you sell sell a healthcare solution, for example, you have a piece of hardware, you have a piece of software. So usually then your cost driver would be the hardware you need to buy before you can ship to your customer, or you need to produce something, whatever it is. Identify your cost drivers. Those can be multiples. And then what you apply is per your orders you have, you assume what it costs you to ship this, if you do hardware as an example, or if you have a service, how much is consumed from my service and driving costs. So sometimes you have third-party costs because you need to license something to provide the service, and that is your cost driver. So identify your cost drivers and get the numbers straight. How much is utilized when you deliver the service? Give you an example. You always have plans underutilized in average. So if you serve 5 devices in our case, we knew from prior experience that in average it's really 3 devices. So you plan for 3 devices for sure, because that's your cost you will have. And you are serving more than the actual usage will be. So that is this whole idea here. So with this, you calculate basically your costs. It's your cost multiplied by your cost per unit multiplied by the units. That is what your total costs will be, and that is a number. And out of this, you are calculating the gross margin, which is basically the revenue minus the costs, and then the percentage of the revenue. So, and this number should be positive, and it should be very high in SaaS. It can go low for hardware. That is okay, because you have costs attached to it. So that is usually happening to produce this device. So this business plan is applicable for SaaS and transactional cases. The only difference is if you do transactions, you don't have a base you are working on, the average customer base. You are working off your gross orders. Every order is revenue for you, and that is how you make money. Compared to SaaS, where the money is coming from the customer base. Okay, good. So then this is your COGS. So the per unit cost you have to deliver the service, and then you are calculating your sales and marketing costs. How much money it costs you to get to your orders, this number here. So how much you need to spend to get to this number, that is a different number to the COGS. And here you take into account everything variable depending on your investment without personal costs. You are not taking personal costs into account. So not your sales reps, not yourself, nothing, just your variable costs you have with paid search or for events, whatever it is. Okay, so how much time we have left, Irina? 12 minutes, right?
Yeah. So 12 minutes around that. But if you have a little bit of time and the participants will have, it will be amazing. But I mean, 12 minutes more or less.
Yeah, so we are almost done. The sales cost is an important piece because that is your main cost driver. Because sales and marketing is usually what costs the most to attract the customer. So, and in SaaS, the cost of goods sold is usually pretty low to deliver the service, and but your marketing costs are pretty high. In the hardware business, it can be that your COGS is high and your marketing is pretty low because you have a sales person going to hospitals, as an example. So then your cost is basically only the travel costs for this person, and you do not really have marketing costs because the only thing you need is a brochure you need to print sometimes, Okay, good. So, and then you are planning out your personal costs. So FTEs, you usually plan for what does it cost me to deliver the service and any overhead costs you have. So customer care, development, what does it take to deliver the service? So all costs in, and usually that's your headcount planning. So how many people I need over time? And as an example, you would need more customer care if you go to other regions because you need language capabilities, as an example. You usually don't need additional development people if you go to other regions because they stay the same or almost the same because you have one product or one platform you need to develop. So that is the thinking you need to have here. What is really happening? What you need to have? What is the real need for your business? And that is then what you are calculating, and then you So FTE planning, so headcount. And then the second is for sure, what does it cost me? You know, what does it cost me is, in this case, is the salary plus any cost on top. And sometimes you have shared services. Shared services means you are buying a service from your tax advisor, for example. You are not having a full-time person for taxes, but you are paying something for them. So those costs is for sure then lower than your salary, but take this into account, you know. And this is your personal cost, you know. This highly depends in where you are. If you're in the US, FTE is pretty expensive. If you are in low-cost areas, Eastern Europe or in Asia, could be fairly small amounts. Depends a little bit on where you are. Developers, my learning is developers are nowadays pretty much same expensive all over the place because they know their value. So even in low-cost area, it can be pretty expensive these days. So anyways, that is your assumption you will make, and then this will determine your personal costs you have. And then you assume some other costs. So if you have an office, you have office costs. If you plan to attend events, you have travel costs. So plan them out as much as you know. And if you plan to do it fully remote, without an office, without any travel, you don't have that much cost. But I would plan something, you know, because always something is happening. So, and that's basically it. You then calculate your EBITDA, and out of the EBITDA, you also plan your CapEx. If you need to buy hardware, for example, servers, or if you need to buy a machinery to produce goods, whatever it is, that is your CapEx costs. And then you calculate the cash contribution, which is basically just the EBITDA minus the CapEx. And then you do the NPV cash contribution calculation. And this is based, in this case, on an annual base. So what you can see here is my cash contribution in the first 3 years is negative. So I'm burning money. That is what it tells you. I'm burning money because I need to fund all this onboarding, the people, etc., and the launches. And then after roughly 39 months, I can tell you in this plan, my business case is turning positive. So I'm getting actually money in my bank account. That is what this number tells you. So this total amount is adding up to 38 million US dollars. Because of I'm discounting by 10%, this total amount of money, 38 million, is in reality 23 million today. You know, this 30 million in 5 years, first of all, I don't know if it will happen. So there's uncertainty. That's baked into the 10%, by the way. And in translating back, it means this number, just to give you an idea how it works. And by the way, the NPV, as further you go, and that's the beauty of this number, is if you plan out 10, 15 years, as further you go, as less valuable is this revenue. If I have revenue in 10 years of 120 million, it's likely worth only, I don't know, 10 million in today money, because it's that far away that it's highly discounted. That's how it works. So Bono, to your question, that is why this number matters a lot, because all the uncertainties is baked into this already. So all the unknowns. Okay, good. So that is all I want to cover in this session. What you then do is, in the best case and the worst case, the only thing you change is your input parameters. Your input parameters is, in this case, less sales. As in, sorry, no, I need to do it a little bit smaller to see it. So the only change we made is in, I think it was the number of sales. So less sales and less price. So that is our worst case. Best case was more price or higher price and higher sales. So, and that gives you then all these numbers you can calculate. And let me go back to my slides. And that is usually what the investors also want to see, because they want to understand what is my customer base end of year for each year, what is my cumulated unit or resources I utilize. So in this case was a number of storage. In your case could be any cost driver you have. They want to understand the revenues and the costs without marketing, with marketing, and what the total cash out is. So that's basically this cash contribution number. And then you can calculate also some percentages. What is my cost of good rate in the first year, second year, etc., where it's stabilized over time? What is my marketing cost? So in the beginning you have high costs. Over time it should go down. Your personal costs should go down as well, because in SaaS, as an example, you are serving with the same number of people, you serve more end customers, you know. There's a question. Let me try to answer. Should it only include subscription from base case? Should I include revenue from enterprise support for SaaS? You should include all revenue you know. If it is one-time revenue for enterprise professional services, add this into your revenue. It's maybe only transactional, so you get it one time, but you plan for it. So put it into the plan. Yes, that's my answer. The base case.
Yeah, I think it more means like a realistic case.
Correct. The case you
what...
plan for. That's the case you plan for. It's that's the base case. Compared to the let me go here. Compared to the best case and worst case, so plus 10% ARPU, minus 20% sales. The only difference you can't really see, but is the timing and the amount of money you need in the end. So the NPV for the worst case is 16.6 million versus best case 35.6 million. In my base case is what I planned for, it's 23 million. So small changes make a big difference in the NPV, but the NPV is still highly positive. So it's a good case, you know. That is what tells you. So, and out of the case I just showed you, what you can see, so I have not the time to go through yet, but what you can see is the month where your EBITDA is the first time positive is after 29 months. That's the first time. That's this little, you can't see it here, is here. That's your break-even point. When your profit is your first time profitable. After 42 months, this year is when the red line, the summarized EBITDA, is crossing the zero. It means all the money I spent, I got back. This is happening in this case after 42 months. So that's 4 years already. And the maximum amount of loss I have is 7.4 million. That's the amount of money I need to care about in terms of financing my business case. So that's the money you need to raise in one way or another. In one way or another to fund this whole thing, you know. And the main driver for NPV is maximizing your sales, maximizing your ARPU, minimizing your customer acquisition costs, and minimizing your utilization of services. So your cost drivers per unit. That is what drives the NPV. Okay, I'm concluding here now. So I think I covered all of it. We went through. And here are my contact data. Please feel free to reach me out within this Constructor Startup Accelerator. I'm happily answering any question you have. If you want to have a private session, I'm open to that as well. Okay.
Thank you so much. I think that this is the most important slide. On the one hand, on the other hand, I do believe that it's good that we are doing the recording, because like several times to come back and to get to know new things. Even I also I mean, I have the experience working with startups on their financial and unit economics, more models. And I was like, okay, how does it look like? Of course, I was curious and got some insights from you. So thanks a lot.
I know
Anyone
this was
last?
a heavy
Yeah.
session today, but I hope it helps. And also take the time. A good plan takes you maybe a week to come up with the first iteration with all the research you need to do, etc. But it also guides you through questions you ask yourself. So if you don't define your product, you can't build a business case. So it will lead you to think about your product and what you want to sell, actually, what you get money for. You know, you need to define this in the first place, and this process will help you to craft this. You know. Okay, good. I think we are really on time. I want to respect everybody's time. Thank you very much.
Yes. So we're wrapping it all up. So thank you so much, Hannes. Thank you so much, everyone who was engaging. And I think that you got what you got all your return on investment, also speaking financially. Yeah. So see you around, dear participants. And Hannes, as usual, thank you so much for your contribution as a workshop speaker and as a mentor. Your startups are are here, so I hope they also enjoy your side of expertise in this format as well. Anyways, wrapping this all up, well, of course, I wouldn't be myself if I don't have the feedback form. So if you can, just the last thing, click here and provide your feedback. Just, save it in your bookmarks. But again, I will come back and remind you about that. And yeah, so see you around. Have a nice afternoon. Have a nice day ahead of you, Hannes, as well. And overall, have a nice rest of the week.
Thank you very much.
This is a tough week. Thank you and see you. Bye.